and I am frankly disgusted by this deep desire to stop people from covering the Tyler Robinson case, to threaten lawsuits, to send out cease and desist letters, to constantly and everywhere go out of your way to do everything you can. Smoke boy. Andrew Wilson, a.k.a. Smoke Boy, nominated veteran Daily Wire podcaster, and Ben Shapiro subject Michael Knowles to moderate Friday's debate, scheduled between Smoke Boy himself and Candace Owens. Today, Michael Knowles declined. Rather than simply declining, Michael Knowles made a spectacle of declining. Michael Knowles shamed people, asking who killed Charlie Kirk, how, and why. He said any money made from the debate should go into a trust for Charlie's children. And then he said he trusted law enforcement and the courts to resolve whether Tyler Robinson was guilty, and everybody else should be quiet about it until we know what the jury says about it. Well, I take issue with nearly everything Knowles had to say in his nearly 10-minute monologue this morning. Well, it wasn't even a monologue. It was basically a statement for why he's better than everyone else for declining to moderate the debate. I mean, I think he needs some icy hot for his shoulder from patting himself on the back. It was the last part that troubled me the most. He was essentially telling the public to butt out, go away, stop investigating, stop reporting. His response is directly in opposition to the foundation of the American criminal justice system. It might be convenient for governments to try criminal defendants without pesky public probing, prosecutors. But there's a reason the pesky public probes prosecutors. There's a reason it should happen. Criminal trials in America are public by design. That design comes from our Constitution. Conservatives are supposed to like the Constitution. I have no idea why Michael Knowles does not. Public trials are rooted in the Sixth Amendment's guarantee of a speedy and public trial. The openness is not some anachronistic tradition. It's, in fact, a deliberate safeguard for all of us. It guards against the abuses that flourish when justice operates in darkness. The principle emerged from hard lessons about closed proceedings. The American system of an open prosecution, subject to public scrutiny, actually stands in pretty stark contrast with a lot of systems around the world. It remains essential because public scrutiny enforces fairness, it deters misconduct, and perhaps most importantly, it has repeatedly corrected the system's gravest errors, often in real time. Historically, closed criminal proceedings invite tyranny. The English Court of Star Chamber was active from the late 15th century until it was abolished by Parliament in 1641. It stands as the most notorious example of a closed criminal judicial system. It was originally intended to handle cases beyond the reach of ordinary common law courts, but it evolved under the Stuart monarchs into an instrument of royal will. Proceedings often relied on written interrogations rather than open testimony. They had no juries. They imposed arbitrary punishments that included things like fines, imprisonment, ear cropping, and even branding. And they operated without the protections of common law. Under Charles I, the Star Chamber Court became a tool for suppressing dissent. Puritan lawyer William Prynne was imprisoned and mutilated. His crime? He critiqued church practices. Others faced similar fates for sedition or even political opposition. The court's secrecy allowed the executive and judiciary to get involved behind quite literally closed doors. Their involvement enabled persecution without accountability. Its abuses helped fuel the English Civil War, and it left a lasting stigma. The phrase Star Chamber remains a coined phrase, and it means secret arbitrary justice. The American founders were steeped in this history. They had a strong insistence that open examination of witnesses is far more conducive to truth than private closed-door interrogation. The founders embedded the public trial right in the Bill of Rights precisely to prevent closed-door persecutions and prosecutions from taking root on American soil. Modern systems that operate without robust public oversight illustrate these enduring risks. These are the enduring risks closed trials inevitably invite. In Thailand, for example, courts have increasingly ordered closed-door trials for activists charged with political expression. Thai courts prohibit publication of proceedings and limit independent monitoring of ongoing proceedings. Such secrecy raises concerns that defendants receive neither fair process nor the ability to challenge evidence in the open. International criminal tribunals, while formally committed to transparency, frequently resort to private or closed sessions that shut out victims, shut out the press, and shut out the public. More broadly, many nations have expanded trial waiver systems. We have such systems here in the United States. These are things like plea bargaining and even penal orders. In dozens of jurisdictions, the vast majority of convictions now result from deals struck behind closed doors, not contested public trials. The result is reduced scrutiny of police and also reduced scrutiny of prosecutorial practices. Public oversight is essential to a fair trial. Public oversight subjects every participant to an ongoing and real-time review. It includes judges, prosecutors, the defense counsel, witnesses, and jurors. The Supreme Court has repeatedly recognized that openness safeguards against the use of courts as instruments of persecution. Knowledge that every step of a proceeding is observed and reported discourages things like perjury, any other kind of misconduct, or even decisions driven by a secret bias. It also encourages witnesses to come forward who might otherwise remain silent. It educates the public about the administration of justice. It builds confidence that the system is legitimate. United States Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis famously stated that sunlight is the best disinfectant. When courts are closed, participants face fewer incentives to act scrupulously. Opening courts each and every step of the way becomes in and of itself a very powerful check. Public oversight of criminal proceedings has prevented wrongful convictions. It's also secured freedom for innocent people. Public trials and the media attention attracted by the fact that trials are in fact public have emboldened key witnesses to come forward, have uncovered hidden evidence, exposed official misconduct, and even generated pressure for reinvestigation. In the last few weeks, I did an opening on the Adnan Syed case. Adnan Syed would still be in prison today and would remain there for the rest of his life, but for the publicity brought to his case by a single podcast. The case involving the Central Park Five drew intense public scrutiny. That intense public scrutiny ultimately contributed to the revelation of false confessions and DNA evidence and cleared the defendants. The podcast In the Dark brought national attention to the repeated prosecutions of a man named Curtis Flowers in Mississippi. It highlighted racial discrimination in both the jury selection and the prosecutorial overreach. The resulting scrutiny helped secure his exoneration after 6 trials. Organizations like the Innocence Project, conviction integrity units within prosecutors' offices, state innocence commissions, they've thrived in an environment where trials and their aftermath remain visible and publicly reported by the press. Public knowledge of cases involving flawed forensics, withheld Brady material, unreliable witness testimony, they've all driven legislative reforms. Recording interrogations, improved eyewitness procedures, broader access to post-conviction DNA testing. All of this reduces the likelihood of future errors. All of this brought on by robust reporting on the criminal justice system. The list goes on and on. In short, the American commitment to public trials, public criminal trials, it is a hard-won rejection of the danger of criminal trials operating without sufficient public oversight before, during, and after the trial. Openness doesn't guarantee perfection, but it makes fairness more probable. It ensures justice is not only done, but seen to be done. It also guarantees that when the system fails, that failure can be corrected. And that's why I'm mystified by the irrational exuberance to declare Tyler Robinson guilty and demand people stop independently investigating the murder of Charlie Kirk. It may be one of the most un-American and potentially anti-American movements in recent memory. It flies in the face of the constitutional guarantee of a speedy and public trial. It rejects historical and cultural American precedent of public checks on prosecutorial powers. And perhaps, worst of all, it sends a very strong signal that there is real doubt about Tyler Robinson's guilt, and that those pressing hard for his conviction don't want that doubt to be exposed by robust coverage of the case against him. So, Michael Knowles, that's the message you sent. In fact, that's the message sent by everyone who shares your sentiment. And that is your opening statement. And I am frankly disgusted by this deep desire to stop people from covering the Tyler Robinson case, to threaten lawsuits, to send out cease and desist letters, to constantly and everywhere go out of your way to do everything you can to try to stop people from having any kind of public oversight over the criminal prosecution of Tyler Robinson. It's disgusting. Candace never brings receipts. Well, she showed a picture today of a guy wearing aviator glasses, what appears to be tights on his lower half of his body, and weighing what looks to be like 40 or 50 pounds more than Tyler Robinson. What do you mean she doesn't bring receipts? She showed us clearer footage of the rooftop villain than any courtroom has produced to date, than any news coverage has produced to date. Time and time again, Candace Owens has delivered. She says she has information and she brings it. She's not the only one doing it. There is a whole cottage industry. Yes, a cottage industry that has popped up. And I notice people are constantly going, I'll cover Brandy Zadrozny talking about this tonight, constantly going on and on about, oh, these people are making money covering this. Well, so's Fox News. So's Fox News. They ran a lot of ads. I was in college. They ran a lot of ads after 9/11. And they covered it round the clock. And they had some of the highest ratings cable news has ever had. And they made a lot of money. Was there anybody that said, man, I wish Fox News and MSNBC and CNN would stop covering 9/11? I wish they wouldn't look into it. After all, they're selling advertising during the ad breaks. That's just disgusting. You can say this about anything that's come up in the United States in the past 50 years. In between the news coverage, they stop and they do commercial breaks, often brought to you now by things like Big Pharma. Half the money, I think, comes in from Big Pharma. Not knocking Big Pharma. Well, I kind of am, but my point is they're all too eager to give them a pass because that's the mainstream media. But by God, if any independent journalist decides they're going to go out and try to cover a story, and they might have YouTube running some ads every 8 to 16 minutes. Oh, no, we can't have that. That's a nonsensical argument. It's an attempt to shame people into stopping this, stopping the investigation, stopping the oversight. We have a constitutional right, a free press, the freedom of speech to cover criminal trials, which by constitutional design are very public, speedy and public trials. If you don't want prosecutors to be held accountable, just say so. Just say so. Michael Knowles basically did. He said, I trust the government. Well, did you trust the government on 9/11? Do you trust that they gave you the whole story about JFK? About how Martin Luther King was killed? What about RFK? Did you trust the government on Jeffrey Epstein? I did not. And I could keep going on. There's a lot of other things I didn't trust the government on. Waco, Ruby Ridge, Vegas shooting. There's a lot I don't trust the government on. And I'm thankful that there are independent people, independent voices that will jump online and share what they believe and share what they've found. What about COVID? Go back to COVID. You trust everything the government said? Safe and effective, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Trust the science. Anthony Fauci is science. Mask up, you psycho. I mean, I don't want to relitigate all these issues tonight. I don't have time to relitigate them all tonight. But do you just blatantly, blindly trust the government to get it right every single time? I don't. If I did, I'd move to North Korea or Cuba. I don't trust the government to get it right every time. I trust that people will jump on YouTube or Spotify or Rumble, and they'll cover some of these things. And they'll try to give you an idea of what they have uncovered. They'll get on X and they'll say, have you seen this picture? How much of what we covered did we find the independent creators on X have come up with? People like Ali Topfiles, Muppet Masher, Blake Bednarz, Diligent Denizen. I mean, on and on. I'm not going to name them all because there's 1,000 of them. We've played stuff from all of them that they found that has helped illuminate what's going on in Utah. What happened on that day? We wouldn't know the security team sent Charlie up there to Utah, basically uncovered so that they could set up a tent. We covered that last night. We wouldn't know that, but for independent creators. Fox News isn't going to cover that. Fox News isn't going to cover that.